Good morning, good evening. Here from the Philippines, it's Captain Trucker. Welcome to the live stream. It's not too late to vote if you're an American expat living overseas here in the Philippines or other places. It's not too late to vote. As everybody knows, the American election's on November 5th. And as they always say in every election, it's supposedly the most important in our lifetimes, as they say. Who knows? Maybe this one is. Maybe they're not just saying it this time, right? Maybe it is the most important election. So it's not too late to vote. Maybe some expats, they don't vote, or they feel that they're removed from America and they don't want to participate. But the fact is, we're still U.S. citizens, and I guess on some level we're responsible to partake in, I guess, our U.S. elections. And yeah, so expats can actually vote. And it's not too late as of now. It's October 15th. I think that the election's on November 5th. And here's what you can do. You can get an absentee ballot request. So if you haven't already, you can submit a federal postcard application, an FPCA. You do this as soon as possible. This will allow you to register and request an absentee ballot if you haven't done so. States have different deadlines. It's recommended you do it 45 days before the election, but we're kind of cutting it close, so it can still be done. And then once the ballot's returned, once you receive your absentee ballot back, you just simply fill it out, return it promptly, and the ballot needs to be received before the polls close on November 5th, 2024. You can do that via mail, U.S. Embassy or consulate, or depending on your state, you can even fax or email it, supposedly. Welcome to the live stream, by the way. Hit that like button, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. And then you have a Federal Write-In Absentee Ballot at FWAB. So if it hasn't arrived yet, you can use a FWAB as a backdrop. You submit that as soon as possible to ensure your vote is counted. If later received your official ballot, you can submit that too. Only one will be counted. And make sure you check the state's specific deadlines and all that good stuff. But yeah, there's an election coming up in the U.S. and I guess that's what they're saying. So whoever you're voting for, it can still be done. No, I'm not Russian. I speak English. I'm an American, sir. Welcome to the live stream, guys. Hit that like button. It still can be done. So as many people know, that whole election thing, it's a big deal, I guess. No, it is. It really is. They say a lot's at stake, and I guess America's divided is what they're saying. But I guess the party system's set up so it's divisive by nature, so I'm not really sure how they act like things are divided, but anyway, that's the way that goes. What's up, Stuart Kotz? Good to see you. Tangerine, good evening to you too. Hit that like button, guys. So yeah, we're talking about this, how expats can vote in the U.S. election, the upcoming election. We're kind of cutting it down to the wire here, but I guess I felt I should do my part and remind people that it's still possible, if you haven't already done so. And, go out and vote, man. I guess that's what we're supposed to do as citizens of the country, of the U.S. There's a lot of rhetoric, obviously, and a lot of polarization. People don't know who to trust. They don't know what to believe anymore. So what happens is you get a large percentage of the population that just kind of says to heck with it. They don't want to deal with it, especially expats, I would imagine, considering they've sort of moved out of their country, and maybe they don't want to talk about that kind of stuff or get involved in it, but you're still a U.S. citizen, and You're still a U.S. citizen, so you still have the right to vote, and I guess you probably should. So who are you guys voting for if you dare to talk about it? Let me know, I'd be curious. I guess they say different things like, more to my surprise, apparently a lot of the expats here in Negros Occidental, from what I've been told, I don't know if it's true, apparently they're, a lot of them I guess are Republicans. Who would have thought? I don't know. But I guess that's the case. You know what I will say about Mr. Trump there? I guess like him or hate him, he does speak his mind, so you got to kind of respect that. I guess to his credit, if you really go back in history, even back to the 80s, he kind of has maintained the same message. He really has. So I guess he gets points for consistency in terms of message. I guess he's sort of like a modern day Maverick, if you will. He's kind of shakes up the status quo, and I guess that's what some people like about him, or I guess respect about him, and obviously a lot of people hate him. As many people know, there's been assassination attempts on his life, which they don't seem to be taken too seriously in the media. In fact, it's kind of surprising to see them even making jokes about it. But, when you go back in history, even like Abraham Lincoln, people may forget, but they tried to assassinate him, or not they, sorry, but I mean, different people tried to go after him a number of times before John Wilkes Booth succeeded in a movie theater. John Wilkes Booth was kind of a different story too. He was a successful actor, and he had success, he had fame, money. Women liked him and stuff, and I guess he just decided to go out, and I guess he took a shot at Abraham Lincoln in a movie theater one day, and that was pretty much the end of his life. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. I'll say this: what blows my mind about that whole thing with Trump and the Secret Service, of course, is like, blows my mind how the Secret Service with all their technology and this and that. I mean, they allow a former president who's clearly hated by, I don't know, maybe half of society or many people. I shouldn't say half, but they let him host these outdoor rallies, right? I mean, you don't have to be an expert in surveillance to realize that it's so hard to surveil like an outdoor rally, obviously. I mean, the variables to control it's crazy. I mean, you can have somebody hiding out in the brush overnight in a tree. I mean, this kid, what's his name? Thomas Crooks, man, he was just on that rooftop nearby. Of course, for the life of me, nobody can seem to figure out why there was nobody managing the rooftop, right? It's like surveillance 101. Why they allow him to speak outdoors, why there's no glass cage. Blows my mind. I mean, nobody knows why. Nobody has answers. Nobody seems to care, but it's kind of too bad, It's actually kind of sad, to be honest. And the other question is, like, why does a billionaire not have his own private security in addition to the Secret Service, right? Like, how does that happen? And then, I guess he's continuing to host outdoor rallies to this day. So there you go. But that's the way that goes. Anyway, welcome to the live stream, guys. We got Stewart's Cats is here. Hello, sir. Tangerine. Thank you for supporting the channel, people. So I've been having this kind of a heated argument with an acquaintance of mine. I guess sort of a friend. I'm not sure if he's a friend. It's kind of hard to figure out at this point, but we go back and forth a lot. How can I describe him? I'll call him Charles. I talked about him early on in the channel. Charles is sort of like a mid-30s something year old successful project manager type of guy, lives in Florida. He's done well for himself, successful and everything, has a lot of money. And he's very zealot. He's very passionate about the whole, I guess, social political scene in America, and I guess he's what I would call like a hardcore Republican. And he's always well. Anyway, he's just very difficult to deal with. He's very angry. He's very argumentative. He's very divisive and all that kind of stuff. But I still think the party system's flawed, by default. I mean, they're always talking about America being divided, on and on. I mean, how do you have unity when you have two opposing us versus them parties, right? These polar opposites, apparently, in terms of policies, and I guess one's for bigger government, one's for smaller federal government. I guess the Republicans allocate less towards social programs and more towards, like, I don't know, national security, uh, excuse me, national defense and stuff like that. Give me a second. And so there's just fundamental differences, I guess, in the parties, Um, but it's become so toxic. It's become so, just hateful. And the tragedy, from my perspective, of American culture right now is like the fact that, we still have all these opportunities in America, and you got people arguing with each other day and night. It's like Americans won't even take care of themselves. They won't take care of each other. It's too bad. But, you know, obviously immigration's a big issue in the American election. I think that's pretty safe to say across all party lines that, immigration to a degree is obviously an issue. For me, I never really understood why it was so much a political issue, but more or less, I don't know, national security or whatever. I mean, all countries have immigration laws. You can't just, for instance, us foreigners, we don't just show up in the Philippines as foreigners. You can't buy houses, own land, and stuff like that. Um, I don't know. I guess what they're saying is they're now tagging the Republicans as the party of common sense, as they call it. And apparently, a lot of the left, some of the traditional left people, like the tech people, for instance, and technology, I guess they're moving, more center, if you will. And even like people like Elon Musk and that other Kennedy guy, they're now supporting the former President Trump. And I think that gesture kind of speaks volumes in and of itself. It's a unique time, we've never had that kind of a figure as a president, somebody who's so kind of, I don't know, unorthodox and non-politically correct, and pretty much speaks his mind, for better or worse, whether people like it or not. He does. And yeah, I guess some people like that, some people don't. But what do you guys think? Who's out there right now? We got some people in the room. Thank you, that's very sweet of you. Yeah. Always some lovely trolls somewhere in the room. Anyway, I'm posting a video tomorrow, by the way, about the house I'm building. I've been working on this house for a while, and I'm glad that I'm pretty much finishing it up. We'll see what happens, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, back to this fellow I was talking about is, I know that a lot of expats, obviously, especially by retirement, they don't want to talk about, issues back home and whatnot. But, as an American overseas, you're still an American, and I guess they say that us citizens should still participate and go out and vote in our home country and all that good stuff. And you still can. Like I said, I'm going to put it in the description, but if you're currently an expat in the Philippines or somewhere else, you can still vote. It's not too late. I mean, we're getting pretty close to November 5th, but you can still get a ballot. It's still possible. So, excuse me. But what about you guys? I'm curious, the people watching. We got 30 people in the room right now, and maybe people are shy to speak up. But who are you guys gonna vote for? Let us know. I'm just curious. I'm curious who the people that watch this channel stand. Um, yeah, I mean, Hector says there's a difference between a person who speaks his mind and a person who speaks lies and hateful rhetoric. Well, I mean, I guess there's arguably truth in that. I mean, the way the man speaks sometimes, I think it's fair to say he can be prone to exaggerations, you know. uh, yeah, pretty easy to take stuff he would say out of context, that's for sure. No doubt. Well, he really was, I guess, you know, he Trump had a thing with the media. This wasn't anything new, man. This goes back to the 80s. I mean, he was always kind of playing the media. He sort of had maybe his own vendetta against them, I would imagine, in some ways, for different reasons. And yeah, there is a sense maybe when he was president, he spent a lot of time sort of getting back at media, if you will. Maybe some of that was good, maybe some of it wasn't, you know. To me, it seems like these terms of these U.S. presidents is so short, you know. I mean, these guys will serve for 4 years. Like, it almost seems like they spend more time running for president and then running for re-election, right? Like, it seems like a lot of focus goes into that sort of promotion, you know, and you wonder how much of that is a distraction from actually governing, right? I mean, who knows? Donald says, we actually did have a Trump as president. The same old playbook. He did a terrible as president, unconventional, yes. Good president, I'm not sure. He riled up a lot of hate here in America. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a perspective. Well, I mean, the man's a genius at playing the media. He's definitely, knows how to promote himself, and I think he was very savvy on social media, that's for sure. Um, but when you look at like the mainstream media in the U.S., not just in the Trump era, but probably going back many years, I mean, it does. It seems like a lot of media people obviously have a lot of agendas. You got a lot of pundits making millions of dollars and so forth. Um, Not even so much what they say; it's more the style, the tone, the way stuff is presented. I mean, they're clearly biased. I mean, how do you find even objective reporting anymore, right? I mean, so many people are like, it's getting to the point where they don't even know what's real anymore. They don't even they question all facts. They question truth, and yeah, there's a lot of confusion. I think what happens is a lot of people just, like I said, they're kind of saying like, to heck with it. Like, we don't want to deal with it, right? So you get a lot of people that end up not voting, right? Gotta look up those stats actually. How many people don't vote? Hector says, saying he's prone to exaggeration is normalizing the behavior. It's done on purpose to rile up his base. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not. I mean, to say it's normalizing, well, the fact is, I mean, in a sense, that's something that he does, so you can say for him that it's normal. I didn't say it was necessarily right or wrong. I'm just saying that's in, it's certainly in his nature, right? Hector says he's a genius in the sense that a fraudster is a genius for having the ability to convince the uninformed and gullible. Okay, I mean, sure, you could say that. But what about the informed? I mean, what about the educated people that support such people, or the other side, right? I mean, you can't say that all people that vote for Trump or Biden or whoever, Kamala, you can't say that they're necessarily ignorant and uninformed people. I would imagine maybe some of them are, sure. It's kind of, it's interesting too. I was having this conversation about, you notice like with rich people, like certain rich people, there's almost and I've seen this with the former president too, is there's a sense that they want acceptance from sort of like the working man, right? Like the working class American man. And I remember he used to say that in interviews back in the 80s. He's like, well, rich people don't like me because they're in competition for me, He's like, the people that like me are like the taxi cab drivers, the street vendors, and all this and that. But I think like when you're so rich, there's a part of your ego that wants the acceptance of the common man, I guess it sort of keeps you grounded in a way, maybe. So, what's up, Jennifer? Miss Pinoy, she asks, who am I going to vote for? Well, we'll see if I reveal that. Or maybe you guys can guess. How about that? Well, I mean, on this channel the past year, I remember when I first started the channel, I would get these people that would say things like, because I would talk about colonialism a lot. I would talk about, or neo-colonialism and sort of like our influence on these countries and the way Americans act when they come here and so forth and so on. A lot of people would make comments like, oh, this guy sounds like he's speaking straight from the liberal professor playbook, but then I would get some people that are like, oh, this guy's conservative, he's a liberal, he's a this, he's a that. And, you can't even have like an independent thought anymore without being tagged with something, And this is one of the arguments I've been having with my acquaintance Charles there, is like, first of all, the problem with, people that are so bought in, they're so bought into these like party systems and whatnot, is like, they become so consumed, and just on a personal level, like people that are so extreme on U.S. politics, like I find them really unpleasant people to deal with, to be honest. Sometimes, But yeah, I mean, let's look at that. Let's look at that though. I mean, like the cop out of like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. It's not a fun subject. I don't believe anybody in the media. I think they're all full of BS. To heck with it. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to vote. I mean, it is a little bit of a cop out in a sense, maybe, right? I mean, the fact is, like, you are a citizen of a country. Shouldn't you take part in your country's election? I would think so. I mean, otherwise, Jennifer says, good evening, Captain, and everybody here. Good evening to you, too. Kirk says, is there a natural point of view anymore? Could there be a Walter Cronkite? I mean, someone who we trust to be trustful while being neutral. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. It's like that's the part that's really screwing us up, is like everything's been so undermined. People don't know what's facts anymore. And by the way, I don't think it's fair to say that Mr. Trump is the only one that lies and potentially lies and exaggerates. I mean, this 80% of the stuff you see on social media, guys, and in the news is propaganda. Okay, it's like half truths. So let's look at some basic things. Let's look at federal spending. Okay, you always hear this rhetoric like Republicans don't want to spend as much money federally, and the Democrats are always raising the federal this and the budget and whatever and the debt. I mean, the fact is, the past, I don't know, I was looking at like 24 years since Bush Jr., both of these parties have been more or less, I believe, spending the same money federally. Now, how those dollars are allocated could be different, right? Towards like government programs for the poor versus more money going to the military and stuff like this. But the fact is, like, they're equally racking up the debt. So make no mistake about that. The two things that have really skyrocketed the debt were two major events. Okay, it was the 2009 housing crisis, and it's also COVID. That really threw off, that definitely, threw it off. That's for sure. But in general, they're both kind of more or less spending the same money. So I guess the question is where's it going? Um, yeah, Donald says, you mean smart millionaires that can manipulate him? So you're saying that Trump's being manipulated by other millionaires? Okay, I don't know. Hector says, wondering who started the name calling, fear mongering or divisive politics. I mean, First of all, look, it's the setup of the system, dude. I mean, it's like, how can you not have division by default when you have two opposing parties to vote for? I think one of the issues is this concept is sort of the plumbing, if you will, of this whole voting system and the party system. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I guess I would consider myself an independent, I mean, there's things about the Democrat Party that I would like. There's things about that Republican Party that I would like. But, you can't even be like an independent anymore without being labeled as this and that. And, people are even afraid to talk about this stuff because I don't know why. It's kind of gotten to that point, but I kind of question this narrative too of like, they say, oh, America's so divided now. I mean, hasn't America been divided maybe for a long time? Maybe it's worse in some ways, right? But, I mean, we always hear this is the most important election in our lifetime. I mean, did they not say that every election? I mean, you guys have heard that, right? What do you guys think? Do you think this is the most important election of the Americans' lifetime? In the history of America, do you think this is the most important? Hector says, do you have the critical skills to differentiate between propaganda and truth in social media? Are you asking that rhetorically or asking me that? But yeah, I mean, that's, even, what's his name? Obama said something interesting about maybe, I don't know, 13 years ago or something. He was saying that, he was predicting that, it's going to be more and more of a problem in the future, the confusion of facts versus fiction and propaganda, like in media. And he was saying that, he wishes there was, I guess, some way, some source of truth, if you will, or some source of objectivity to where citizens can go to get facts, so they can kind of cut through all the nonsense and this and that and vote on policies, right? Vote on actual policies. I mean, really, isn't that the most important thing? I mean, let's face it. I mean, I think a lot of people vote on personality and this and that. How engaging and interesting somebody is. I mean, sadly, they say that a lot of Americans will vote on emotion. They'll vote on sentiment. Okay? And obviously that can be a problem, I guess, in decision making. But yeah, I mean, government's a complex topic, isn't it? Government in the U.S. I mean, what do you got going on? You got the president. I guess you have the Congress. You got the Senate. You got the House of Representatives. You have governors of states, mayors and all this stuff. It's like, how is this all interconnected, right? It's a good question. I guess there's people that actually study geopolitics and government in college. Maybe they could better answer that. Hector says, what was the last book you've read? Audiobooks count too. I suspect that most Americans today don't read anymore. That's quite possible that many don't. I mean, I've read statistics that are alarming on the supposed literacy rate of Americans too, which would surprise me. I don't know if the study was correct or biased or this or that, but I mean, I was reading somewhere like the illiteracy rates are similar to like developing countries, just kind of mind blowing. Like I was, talking about raising my son in the school system in the Philippines in a private school because they base their curriculum off U.S. curriculum, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, citizens got to be involved and make sure their kids are learning and so forth, especially learning how to read. Seems like a pretty important thing. Kirk says it's easier to pick the most important election quote if you look back in time. That's certainly a way to look at it. Guys, smash that like button if you don't mind. I'd appreciate it. We got 35 people in the room. Yeah, I've been having the past couple days, let's say the past 3 days, I've been having this serious arguments with an acquaintance of mine, like I said, who's, I won't say who he is, but, he's heavily involved in, the Republican Party in, I guess, different ways, and, he's got some money and influence, I guess, and he's so difficult to deal with, I mean, when people get so sucked in to politics, at some point you got to realize that, you kind of are just doing the bidding for some of the kings and queens of this world. And so there is a sort of a healthy balance that we have. And this is what the citizens are missing of the U.S., man. This is why they're fighting among each other, man. It's like they don't need to be doing that, because, well, they just don't. It's like not healthy. But this is kind of what some of the leaders are, I guess, doing in a way. And I mean, I think the major issue in this election, from what they're saying, I mean, obviously, well, first of all, the government debt, I mean, that's obviously a serious issue, all right? There's going to be no quick fix. There's no easy solution. It's not going to be done overnight. It was just like the inflation after, people forget that when COVID happened, the government handed out a lot of stimulus checks, all right? Now, it's hard to just print up, what was it, billions, trillions of dollars of essentially, cash to citizens, and then suddenly we got inflation, right? I mean, you really don't think that had some kind of factor in it, but it's always natural for the prior administration to blame the prior and the upcoming. It's just it's a run-of-the-mill thing they do, and it's for the masses to consume. Like the other commenter said, that it's, you just blame the guy before or whatever. They all do it. Where are the facts? Where's the objectivity? Has anybody got any opinions? Hit that like button, guys. Show some love and support, man. We got 30 people in the room. What's up, Eastern Dreamer? He says, hey, Trucker, hope you're doing well this evening, buddy. Thanks, man. I'm not taking like a political stand on tonight's live stream. I'm just letting people know, Alex, that it's not too late to vote if you're a U.S. expat overseas. I was just having this serious argument with an acquaintance of mine, and I told him that, I was going to do my part, I guess, to tell people to go out and vote, because they still can. It's not too late. And even if you're an expat, you still can, It's not too late. You can get an absentee ballot. I'll put some details in the description, but anyway. User Diefield says the majority of Filipinos support Trump for his advocacy of Christian values. Trump must win. America's last chance to make America great again. Support Project 2025. I don't even know what project. I don't even know what that means, honestly. Make America great again. Okay. Well, one thing I know is that we do seem to expect quick fixes, don't we? And like I said about this whole inflation thing, there's no easy solution and there's no quick fix, guys. All right? COVID was a serious thing in this world. And, I mean, you had all that stimulus money. People are sort of scratching their heads going, hey, who started this inflation? And I was like, well, but anyway, I'm not going to like take stance here. I'm not a geopolitical expert, but I think that we do have a responsibility, even as expats. We should probably still vote in our native countries. Well, hold on, let me pull up those statistics really quick of people who don't vote. Because like I said, you know, a lot of people are just like, hey, man, you know, let's not talk about this. Let's not deal, you know, they don't want to deal with it. But in recent U.S. federal elections, a significant portion of eligible voters did not participate. In 2020, supposedly 66.8% of eligible voters cast ballots. This means that approximately 32% of eligible voters, or 80 million Americans, did not vote in that election. All right. So you got about 330 plus million Americans, and you got about 80 million people who just say, to heck with it. We don't want to deal with it. It doesn't matter. It's not gonna change our lives. It's not gonna make a difference. You know, my vote, what does it matter? But it does, you know, because it's like in sales. You know, it comes in groups. It's like an energy. It's transcendent. It's hard to explain. It's like that. It's like an exponential thing. It's like that on YouTube. There's social media. You know, you get views, and then it attracts more views, and it sort of compounds and all that. So it does. Like one vote does make a difference in that regard. And Donald says, yes, vote please and get it over with. You mean this live stream or that concept? Hector says, that's what I mean when I say low information voters. Take the time to understand it. Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of tag words these days. But for what I understand, Hector, I think, didn't the former president say he had nothing to do with that, or he wasn't on board? How did that work? Maybe you tell me, since I guess you're saying you're very educated on this stuff. Maybe you can enlighten us. Yeah, Ben says a lot of people don't vote because they hate the two-party system. Yeah, I don't like it either. I don't get it. You know? But Hector says, if every eligible voter in America voted, I can pretty much predict what party will dominate. What's up, Licks? Good to see you. And what would that be, Hector? Tell me. Yeah, I suspect it seems like he would too, right? I mean, look, the mainstream media is obviously backing and promoting the Democrats, I think, as they usually do. I think, with the exception of Fox, which is obviously conservative. And like we were saying, there's no major media outlets anymore, no mainstream media anymore is objective. All right, so throw that out the door. None of them are, you know. What's up, Robert? Good to see you. Yeah, don't call me boy, idiot. Um, well, who said Scotch? Rick says Scotch. Yeah, he quite possibly could. Um, but yeah. But they say the reasons that people for not voting includes lack of time, dissatisfaction with candidates, or belief that one's vote doesn't matter. Yeah, it's kind of. I think the latter is probably a lot of what it is. You know, that's all right. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that. Um, like I said, I consider myself an independent. I don't associate with a party system. I don't. I refuse to. I think it's silly. I don't like it. The voting system itself is flawed, in my opinion. I don't. The the plumbing of it has to change. I got that line from somebody else, but Ben says I like breaking points on YouTube. It's new with a guy on the right and a girl on the left side are both friends. Yeah. Um, I think where I'll say this, I think where the mainstream media failed in their pursuit in the past was I think they underestimated um, uh, the average Joe's ability to see through, the biases in general. I mean, people can tell. It's kind of like that saying in show business, like never underestimate your audience. Um, People subconsciously can sense, when somebody's trying to pull some wool over on them or somebody's trying to sell them something. They can just sense it. They feel it, and they don't trust it. And I think our former president, yeah, he does say some stupid stuff sometimes, some reckless stuff, and we all know it, and his own people know it. Okay, but I think he was sort of a master himself at, kind of manipulating a little bit of getting the media to kind of attack him in a sense, knowing that a lot of people, I guess it would just lift up his base in a sense, right? So I don't think the mainstream media, I don't think they're helping the Democrats. That's for sure. I really don't. I mean, it's kind of amazing too because you look at all the money they have. Because I mean, everybody knows most of the mainstream media. I mean, they're liberal, and or they're like Fox, and they're not, But again, none of them have objectivity anymore. Not so much in it's like the style and the tone of everything, and it's these pundits, it's very subtle. It's the way things are reported, the way they're presented. It's like making a movie. It's like that on social media too. And that's that kind of the manipulative part of media and propaganda is like it's very influential. It's extremely influential. So. Well, I'll say this about, um, they try to use this too. Like I remember this was common. They'll say like, oh, he's like, friends with he admires these dictators or whatever. Um, but I think to his credit, being the businessman guy, well, first of all, in any strategy, like if you have an enemy, you ever heard that expression, keep your enemies close? Or what is it? Keep your friends close, your enemies closer. Yeah, you should have a good relationship with your enemies. That's ideal in negotiation and in relations. I do know that. I can say that for sure. So I don't necessarily think that's a bad strategy. Truly, I don't. But I can see to where that kind of talking point for the masses could be a concern, you know. And again, but I think the media is failing on that one because I think, look, a lot of people, like I was saying, man, they don't buy. They sense when they're being sold something. They can just feel it. Okay, even if they can't define it, it's psychology. It's subconscious. It's like it's an energy, you know. Anyway. Ben Shepard says both sides agree on 85% of problems. The system just distract us by keeping us focused on dividing topics. Yeah, I mean, most Americans want homes being built cheaper, medical, and not having open borders. Yeah, look, I don't get, for me, I don't understand why immigration and all that is like this party issue. I don't get that, but that's just me. And there could be a good reason for that. If anybody knows, let me know. Like I said, you go to mostly any country in the world, you can't just walk in, buy land, buy houses, do whatever you want. I mean, there's limitations, right? And I know that there's a lot of, you know, conspiracies and this and that, and there could be, you know, who knows. But and the other problem with the whole immigration thing on the flip side is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows, but I don't think we really know the numbers. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. I don't think we really know the numbers of, well, for instance, like migrant crimes, illegal immigrant crimes. And I don't jump on me for saying this, okay? I'm saying it's a problem. It's got to be, okay? We all know that. But do we really know the extent? I'm not sure we do. But it is a problem. And obviously, like illegal immigration is a problem for any country. Everybody knows that. So, I mean, you can't have it. And the other issue is that, you know, countries do ultimately look out for their own interests. That's part of what makes them a country, right? They protect their own people, they protect their own interests. I mean, they do. I think most countries do that. So yeah, anyway. Yeah, I'm not taking sides. I'm just kind of reminding people that if you're interested, you can still go out and vote, folks, if you're an American overseas. Whoever you choose, it's up to you. It's your right. Do what you got to do. Thank you for that super chat, Jennifer. But yeah, like I said, for me, I mean, there's stuff both parties that I like. You know, stuff I like, stuff I don't like. I guess in general, I would be the type of person that would prefer less government involvement, if possible, right? But I guess the question is that possible? I mean, you're governing a country with 330 million people. I mean, is everybody going to be responsible and do the right thing without Big Brother governing them? I don't know. I hope so. Eastern Dreamer says, I think more of the former middle class will go expat in the coming years. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I've sort of been promoting too. You know, I mean, for people that have watched this channel for 3 or 4 months, I've been going on and on and on about the American middle class and why they're essentially screwing themselves and, you know, they're sort of doing all the work for the kings and queens. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the middle class would be better off if some of them, if they become expats, you know. They'd probably have better options. Their money would go farther. They wouldn't be as stressed out. They wouldn't have to carry the burden of everything else. I mean, we all know, like, I'll say this: I was in the Bay Area recently. Before I came back to the Philippines, I was up in the Bay Area. I used to live up there like no 16 years ago, like in the East Bay. I lived in Berkeley for a while. I stayed in the or south of Oakland, Hayward area. I did a couple of years school in San Francisco. You know, back then that that place had issues. I mean, it was you had pockets of it that were dangerous, hostile, and all that. It was a really cool place. It's always been a cool place, but this time, dude, I was in South San Francisco, man, and boy, that place has become way more hostile and aggressive than it used to be. That's for sure. I mean, you walk down some streets now in South San Francisco, you can get shot, dude. I mean, it's that serious. And that whole thing about stealing stuff out of stores, up to $1,000 or whatever with no prosecution. That's a true story. That's not fake news. That's what people are doing in California, man. I mean, I used to know homeless people like in LA. There was crews of people that lived on the streets, lived in cars in Skid Row or whatever, and it was a routine. I mean, people would take turns, stealing stuff out of stores and food and all this and that. Uh, you know, that's where the homeless flock to in the U.S. is California, man. You can't live anywhere else. You can't be homeless in Chicago. You'll freeze to death, right? So they all go to California, man. The weather's good. But it's a real thing. I mean, I've always thought California was the most unique state, in my opinion. I mean, I've been to every state except Alaska, some of them very extensively. I've lived in different parts of the U.S., the South, the West, the Northeast. I still think that, California does seem like it's kind of its own entity in a way, for better or worse. I love California. I always have. In terms of like the weather, the climate, the microclimates, the Mediterranean climate, the beaches. I grew up there as a kid, so I have a sentimental connection. But the social, political scene, I don't know. I don't want to talk about that so much, but it's. I've been to Hawaii too. Yeah, I've been to Hawaii twice. It's a lovely place. All right, let me read a few comments here. Ben says, when it comes to America's imagination problem, do you mean immigration or imagination? I think it comes down to Social Security. We need a population to almost double to keep it going in the next 50 years. Permeter SER says, what do you think about immigrants? Well, I mean, you mean what do I think about people? I mean, this whole populations of immigrants, right? It's like expats. I mean, they're all sorts of different categories, shapes, and sizes. I mean, obviously, they're not all of them are just, it's lots of different types. Life on a farm says pack up and leave America. Yeah, well, here's the thing. That's the other question too. Is like, do expats, to people like us, people that are living in a foreign country, do we still have a responsibility to vote in our native land? Back in America, should we still take part in our elections? I think we should. I mean, it's like it's not like we've renounced our citizenship. We're still Americans. I don't think it's an excuse not to take part or a cop out, because like I said, what was it, 80 million people that didn't vote? I mean, because of reasons of dissatisfaction, lack of time apparently, dissatisfaction with candidates or belief that their vote doesn't matter. I think it would be more the latter, in my opinion. And like I said, I think that's where people are grossly mistaken, because numbers attract more numbers, and and it's cliche, but every vote does matter. It really does, because it attracts more people to vote. It's transcendent. It's hard to explain. It's like a numbers thing. Levi Russell says, you remind me of Tucker Carlson. That's funny. Nobody's ever said that to me. Eastern Dreamers and Dumagetti. Ben Shepard says, I spent a month in Vietnam. I ate out every day at a condo near the beach and a good amount of partying. Spent less than $1,100 in a month. Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. Can't do that anywhere in the U.S., that's for sure. All right. Give me one moment, folks. Oh wow, this live stream hit 1,200 views somehow. Don't ask me how. I didn't think it was that interesting. Yeah, Eastern Dreamer says, let's convince Trucker to come visit Dumagetti. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I'm open to it. I'm certainly not against it. I wouldn't mind going there. I want to go to Dumagetti, maybe even San Carlos. You know where I want to go is Lakawan Island. You guys know anything about Lakawan Island? I want to go to Lakawan. Jennifer says, show some support to Captain Trucker by hitting that like button. Thank you. Yeah, it's free. It's definitely free. It's almost too free, but that's okay. All right. But yeah, man, I got into this serious, like, toxic argument with an acquaintance of mine the past couple days, and I'm glad that I'm not working right now because, man, like I said, man, some of these party zealots, dude. I mean, they could be toxic people, man. I'm like, dude, you got to get to the point. It's like, take part in your election. That's cool. But, like, don't become some, I don't know. It's just hateful people out there, man. I mean, when you jump on these ball teams to an extreme as an American, you end up like hating each other, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's not supposed to be that way. Unbelievable. It's too bad, I mean, there's so much opportunity in America. There still is. I really believe that. There's still opportunity, and there's a lot of great people there. And, the middle class gets caught up in God knows what, materialism, keeping up with the Joneses, as I've said many times, trying to get by, and they get angry, and and it's, when you're bought into the system like that, it's understandable. See, when you're an expat like us, people like Alex or Ben, thank you, Ben, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I appreciate that, because it's like I try not to tread in this territory, but if people like it, I will more. Because I don't care. I mean, it's one of the beauties of the Captain Trucker channel. We'll try anything once or twice. But tomorrow, guys, I'm posting a video about the house I'm building. So I want you guys to check that out. I'm going to post that tomorrow at 7 a.m. Philippines time. I'm going to show the construction of my house, and I'm going to break down the cost, tell you guys how much it costs, stuff to look out for, and all that kind of good stuff. So that should be a cool video, I hope. Anyways, rock and roll, guys. Appreciate you supporting the live stream. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Alex, and everybody else. Everybody else that showed up tonight. Life on a Farm. Hector, Jennifer, and there's many other people. Thank you, Levi, Prometa, and thank you to the other people that showed up. Lix. And the Barbarian. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. User Diefields, appreciate it. All right, guys, I'm going to get going. I'm going to go to bed. It's been a long day. Check out the video I'm posting at 7 a.m. Be good, guys. Americans, get along with each other. You got too many opportunities to be fighting, man. If you're dissatisfied in the middle class, just get rid of your house, man. Become an expat. Let's try to help each other, man. Let's try to build people up. All right. You guys take care. It's not too late to go out and vote if you're an American overseas. Have a good night, people. Bye-bye.